Professor Rogers. My name is Lisa. I'm in your 2 p.m. iTrade class. And this is my roommate and partner in crime, Celine Caldwell. So as you can see, we have a very low-key Thanksgiving dinner today. And so part of what I'm going to do today is try and explain some of the details of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, better known as the TPP deal. So Celine, what do you know so far about the Trans-Pacific Partnership?
I know that Obama and Hillary like it, but Bernie and Trump don't.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And now that Donald Trump is going to be our next president, the U.S. remaining part of this deal is virtually slim to none. There's like no chance of this passing. But I still think it's worthwhile looking into just why so many people on both the right and the left of the political spectrum were so reluctant to embrace it, and also why Americans shouldn't necessarily have been so afraid of it.
So Lisa, what is this TPP?
So the TPP is actually the biggest trade pact that's being undertaken since the World Trade Organization was funded around 20 years ago. And so what it does is it combines 12 countries from the Pacific Rim region, and as well as the United States, Canada, Mexico, Japan, Malaysia, many others, that together comprise 36% of global output and 24% of all merchandise imports and outputs in the world. So it's really a big deal, both figuratively and literally. So one of the things that's important is that the U.S. was interested in pursuing this because it wanted to act as a counterweight in this Pacific Rim region to China, both economically and politically. What the TPP would implement is a series of, or it would reduce barriers to trade in the Pacific Rim region. And a large part of this would have been tariffs. What tariffs do is they're basically levy taxes on imports. And kind of the goal of tariffs is to protect domestic producers from foreign trade. So essentially, let's say the United States produces tennis balls at $10 and China produces them for $5, right? Where are US consumers going to get their tennis balls?
Probably China.
Yeah, that's exactly right, because China is cheaper. And one of the ways that the US government could remedy this is by implementing a $6 tariff. So effectively, the US price of tennis balls would remain exactly the same at $10, but China would now, or the US consumer would receive Chinese goods at $11. Now, where is the US consumer going to get their tennis balls?
At home?
Exactly, domestically, because it's cheaper to get them from the United States. And so what tariffs awaken, these reductions in tariffs, it's exactly what people like Donald Trump are afraid of. Basically, they assume a more protectionist stance, and by doing so, effectively, they believe that if the government does not regulate this, many profit-driven corporations are going to be incentivized to move their workers overseas to lower production costs.
So is that a fair way of looking at it?
Well, there is some truth to the fact that since 2000, 5 million manufacturing jobs in the United States have been lost. And while some of it probably has been due to foreign competition, that's neglecting a lot of other factors, including automation. It's the fact that many robots are performing the jobs that low-skilled Americans were performing decades earlier. So that's definitely one aspect. But the TPP, many of the countries that are in the TPP, we already had free trade agreements with to begin with. So essentially what the TPP would be doing is removing the minimal tariff or barriers to trade that we already had to zero. And that effect really would be negligible on US producers.
Wait, so if there's little impact on American trade, why are we joining?
Well, there's actually a number of benefits from joining the TPP, besides acting as a counterweight to China's presence in the region. One of the big aspects of the TPP happens to come from regulation towards issues like cyber theft and intellectual property. Another thing that's really quite impressive about the TPP is that it involves regulations for the environment, which is not something we typically see about from free trade agreements. For instance, there are regulations that have to do with wildlife trafficking. And though admittedly it does fall short when it comes to some climate change proposals, including global warming, another aspect that's really important about the TPP is that it aims to open access to the internet to a bunch of these countries. So really it's a shame when we have conversations about these, especially in this very politically charged atmosphere, that many people listen to this emotionally charged rhetoric instead of really looking at some of the aspects. I'm sure many of the people who very vehemently opposed the Trans-Pacific Partnership couldn't really delineate some of its aspects. So what matters is that we have conversations like this one where we really look at the nitpicky details of the agreement and have a conversation about it and its benefits. What's important to remember is that there's always going to be people that benefit from this. There's always going to be people that are hurt by it. And what matters is that when looking at deals like the Trans-Pacific Partnership, it's important to evaluate what the net welfare would be from this kind of deal.
Oh, cool.